Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? My guest today is Dennis Mollan of Protone Pedals. Now, Dennis and I have been friends for several years, and he was kind enough to give me his time to talk to me about Protone Pedals. We told a couple of stories about when we met, and he kind of explained his new line of Patrick Nagel-inspired pedals. All right, I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's check it out. Tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Man, these questions get different every time we have this conversation, Brittany. I am Dennis Mollan from Protone Pedals, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, formerly Dallas, Texas, Denton, Texas as well. So we'll throw some love Denton's way.
Right on. Crossroads, really, right?
Yes, even cooler sounding, right?
I'm from Crossroads,
and you know what's
Texas.
awesome? You were in Crossroads, Texas, and right up the road is a little town. It's just on the other side of Crossroads, just before the new bridge was put in. And I'm drawing a blank. It's just another one of those subdivisions. All that to say, Sully Guitars is based out of there.
Yeah, he's in Little Elm.
That's it, Little Elm.
Yeah.
Little Elm was literally like 100 yards away from my house in Crossroads.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So we were like literally MySpace friends, and didn't even know that we were 100 yards from one another until I want to say like a week before I pulled the trigger and moved to South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit! And now he's all big and blown up, and
Yeah, he's
cool
got his
stuff.
own, he's got a new spot.
I haven't been following too closely what he's done. I did see him like post some photos of a moving truck and stuff. So good on him.
Yeah.
I guess Taco Power Guitars does pretty well.
Yeah, right. He did post a picture of both his cars in the garage, and that was his way of saying, like, I can finally use my garage.
Yes, I'm out of the garage. I'm legit now.
Well, man, yeah, so you are in Virginia. You build boutique pedals?
I'm in South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah. You want to do that again?
No. I'm an idiot.
Well,
South Carolina.
Well, I'll cut you some slack.
It's all the South, dude.
Well, it is all the South. And it's funny when we travel and my wife will say we're from Charleston, and I have to remind her there are several Charlestons at this end of the continent. So you got to tell them South Carolina. So, but the South is it's a weird beast, and it's a weird time to be here too. I'm not going to lie.
I can imagine.
I know it's not a political podcast, but oof, it's a weird time to be here. But then again, I haven't been outside in a year and a half, so I really wouldn't know.
All right. Well, how long has Protone's been around?
Protone Pedals have been around probably 17 years, 18 years. I'll tell you the honest to goodness truth. The way that I normally answer this question is I have to go to whois.com, the domain name registrar for the world, that tells you when a company or somebody bought a domain. That's kind of when I figure that's where I draw this, snap that chalk line as far as we're a thing now. We've bought a website rather than just doing little shows and stuff like this. So I want to say about 17 years. It was a long answer for 2 words. I'm sorry.
And you mainly specialize in boutique pedals, right? What they call boutique pedals.
Yeah. We call them boutique. I think Protone still falls into that category of boutique, in that we don't really do anything mass produced. There's a lot of folks out there that you'd think are boutique, but they're doing them in massive batches and things like this. But no, we still do every single one by hand right here in South Carolina. So yeah, it's pretty boutique.
And you didn't kind of get into this to make pedals, right?
Well,
way back
I started.
when?
No, I did get. No, I got into it because I needed something and I made it and it was cool. And people said, yeah, that sounds cool. So, the always looking for something to sell hustler that I am. I said, well, let's see if we can sell a bunch of them. So we did. That's the long and short of that story. I know you've heard it before. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I did. I needed a clean booster to go in front of my Gibson Gold Tone, little 1x12 killer little tube amp. Awesome clean, but you just couldn't get it to distort to save your life without a pedal. So I made a little clean boost. People dug it. Yeah, that's rad. So I made another one, put some racing stripes on it, threw them on eBay, and had a couple dealers before the 7-day auction ended. It is really the Reader's Digest version of that story. But this was 17 years ago, and there wasn't but 6 of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was me and Mike doing the full tone stuff, and obviously Zach and Zebex was around, and Wampler was just doing pedal mod instructions, and now they're a behemoth.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was, like I said, he was just doing PDFs for $20. So it was a different world.
And then you started building pedals for other guys, like quote unquote famous artist.
Well, fame is all relative. But yeah, we did.
Guys who made records that people bought.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. We've made a few of those. I think the first big that I sent something to was actually Dave Navarro of tattoo fame, tattoo and internet weirdness fame. No, who doesn't love Dave and Jane's Addiction? I made a wall for him, and then somehow it got around to Billy Morrison, who was from the Cult, and he was in the Cult at that point in time, and then I started doing a bunch of stuff with Matt Sorum from that Guns N' Roses, also the Cult. So yeah, and then it just snowballed, and we kind of fell into this niche of industrial guys. We started working with Tommy from Prong, and then Paul Raven of Killing Joke and Prong, and every industrial band in the 90s. But that was Paul. So so we've been everywhere. That was the early days. So yeah, we've worked with a few people that are famous, I suppose.
Yeah. What do you think separates you from all the other pedal guys, all the other pedal companies?
Honestly, aesthetics. I think our aesthetic has always been slightly left of center. We try to take a step back. With a name like Smuckers, it's got to be good. Well, with a name like Protone, it's got to be good. But it is good, and I say that confidently because it is. We do good stuff. I've been in the industry. I studied theory and composition, then I went and studied audio engineering, and I've been in the studio rat. I've done the touring thing. I know what sounds good. I hate blowing my own horn like that, but I do. I know what sounds good. But these days, there are hundreds of guys just like me, hundreds of boutiquers out there. And a lot of us are using even the same schematics with the same original errors and just bizarre stuff like this. So I think the barrier for entry for a boutique company these days is non-existent. There's so many part sources. There's so many, like I said, schematic references. There's a million of our things floating out there that have all been reverse engineered. So what sets us apart is kind of the one thing that we do slightly different, what I've always done, is just we put weird, cool, strange, awesome art on top. This day and age, it's going to sound good. Like I said, we all have access to every bit of information that's humanity has ever concocted via the internet. So it should sound really fucking good. And they do. And so does everybody else's. So how do I set them apart and make them look cooler?
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's oversimplified, but that's really what it comes down to.
And it's worked out for you.
It's some days it does. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, I'll spend a whole bunch of money on art and nobody wants it. But no, generally it works out. Probably since we've known each other, I've always worked under the ethos of repulsion marketing. You make something so weird and so repulsive looking that if you're into it, you're into it. And if you're not, you're so repulsed, you don't even waste either of our time. And that's really what I'm going for. I want the dudes that get it to approach me and talk about it. The dudes that don't get it, let's not waste each other's time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I kind of came up with that mindset before the internet really exploded with like YouTube and stuff. And you had to press the flesh a lot via guitar shows and NAMM and South by Southwest and all of these things. And you'd literally spend 10 hours a day talking to tire kickers, and then maybe the last hour or somewhere you'd talk to people that truly get it, So what I try to do is just, I'm going to make it so weird looking that if they're just not into that look, I don't have to talk to them at all. So that worked pretty well. And then we've kind of, pivoted here and there. Well, let's put some of this artwork and let's put some of that on there. So now we're kind of in the middle of this, or we just started in the middle, in that I've been working on it for almost a year now, and it's only been released for a few weeks. That being the Patrick Nagel collection. Not weird or ugly at all, but it's pretty fucking rad, but totally different. Yeah. Totally different. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're excited by him. I mean,
so that was about a year in the works, and you just released them. How are they doing so far?
So far, they're doing really, really well. It's kind of a weird, I'll be honest with you, from a business perspective, it's kind of a weird time for business, because while the outside world business is picking up, like your restaurants and things like this, but for the last 18 months or so during this quarantine lockdown nonsense, people have kind of locked themselves in their room and played guitar and bought a lot of guitar pedals. Yeah. It was quite nice. I cannot complain. But now that the world is starting to open back up, I'm seeing that normal summertime dip as people do other stuff, which is great. I want the world to go on and do other stuff. So we're kind of releasing this at a weird marketing time, but as far as the reaction, dude, people love them. I mean, when you look at these things, it really, and what I wanted people to kind of remember those cool feelings of the 80s where nobody gave a fuck about anything. And again, wild oversimplification. But, I mean, when you opened up a Playboy magazine, you saw his art in there, or you were at the mall somewhere and everywhere is Nagel art. Even at movies and things like this, it was just everywhere. He was just such a snapshot in time that I kind of wanted to celebrate that. And then I was thinking, man, how do I make that work? What do I put under the hood? Mm-hmm. So I said, well, let's go pure 80s. Everybody did like the 60s and 70s pedal reboots with all the germanium stuff. And here, this will make you sound like Hendrix, and this will make you sound like Clapton. Well, what about dudes our age that don't want to sound like that? Maybe we want to sound, like the dudes from Skid Row or Mick Mars, these guys that had cool tone. I mean, Jesus, Mick Mars had some of the best guitar tone ever. But I digress. So I started thinking, well, how did some of these cool tones that we've completely forgotten about, what did they do? What did they use? So we just kind of dug into what was happening in the 80s. So we're just kind of celebrating those circuits and those tones from the 80s. Like we've got the blue chorus, which is exactly what it sounds like. You know, the CE2, it's the blue chorus pedal that everybody loves, but you can't get them anymore, you know, without paying through the nose. Or you can get the new Waza Craft that's this, I don't know. I haven't looked under the hood, but it does a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know how they're pulling that off in the analog world. Let's just say that. So I'm sure it's great. I don't know. You know, so then like everybody's favorite dirt box from that era, the old gray 250, you know, things like that. Then we've got some compression and all these things planned out for later in the year. So again, just kind of celebrating that. I mean, the 80s it's a punchline now, but when you think back, man, there were some really cool tones. I mean, think of like Mark Knopfler's use of compression in any Dire Straits song.
Yeah.
Compression is the next thing we're putting out. So because that and just the clean tone from, I was listening to something the other day and I don't remember what it was, but it had just the most amazing spanking clean tone. I said, yes, we need that again. so that's really it is. It's just kind of celebrating that stuff that guys our age grew up on. You know, that was always my ethos. I don't want to make you sound like dudes my dad listened to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, that's great. But what about us who want to sound like, you know, Kirk and James and Slash and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of I don't know, it's kind of the way that we've always wanted to go is what's next. So, and what's next is looking back at what was. I mean, 80s are huge. It's awesome. I dig it.
Yeah. I can concur.
You pay your bills on the 80s or most, not really though. Because anyway, I would say, man, that Ordinary World, that was 90s and that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a massive hit.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, I get it.
you were saying earlier, and this is kind of a two-part question, that all you guys go from the same schematics. Is there a certain pedal that Protone's put out that continues to sell, you know, to this day? And have you ever designed anything that's specifically yours, like an original Protone design?
Yeah. We've done some boosts and things like that have been all ours. And it is really, I mean, it's not hard to do. As far as what's a clone that sells perpetually, hands down, that's our Dead Horse Overdrive. It's the Tube Screamer. It's a Dead Horse that every boutique company is beating. I just came up with the name first. No, and I'll tell you the honest to goodness backstory about that. I was at NAMM and I was delivering Paul Raven's first signature to him, and we were going to do a photo shoot. We did the photo shoot upstairs. I'm having coffee with Johnny Coffin Case. Great guy. I don't know if you know him or not. Super cool guy.
Yeah.
We're having coffee, and he says, "So how does your Tube Screamer sell?" And I said, "Dude, everybody makes one of those. We don't make one." And his response was, "Dude, Tube Screamer circuits sell really well." Okay. And that was 15 years ago. And to this day, we still sell, you know, a couple dozen a month.
Wow.
So I went home and said, well, I don't want to do a standard Tube Screamer clone. So, you know, again, the internet is a lovely place. And everybody's mods, that all these aftermarket mods that dudes were doing and charging ridiculous money for. Okay, well, here's that schematic note. Here's this note. I just threw them all in and picked the ones that I thought were coolest. Basically, it's just a mashup of all of the various Tube Screamer lines. You know, how many have there been? And it just kind of takes the best of all of those worlds into one thing. And like I said, it's like, oh, it's the dead horse that we're all beating. So here we go. And that's that. And like I said, to this day, we sell quite a few of them.
Right on, man. You've worked with quite a few artists. Is there anyone in particular that you just loved or love working with? Someone who's just like, just a delight to work with.
Yeah, I will tell you. Paige Hamilton from Helmet. We do his distortion. Talking with that guy is a hoot. He's got so many awesome stories, because he was kind of exploding with Helmet when I was in college, and that was cool. You know what I mean? You always kind of remember your college band, almost like your college guy. So I was a huge Helmet fan in college because, it wasn't quite, this metal or that metal, and it wasn't as aggressive of some things. Like at that point, Ministry had just come out with Psalm 69, which was great. Anyway, but then Paige goes on and joins Bowie and does some cool stuff there, and he just does this avant-garde art noise albums. So all that to say, he's fantastic to just shoot the shit with. I'm trying to get him to talk to you. So, but you guys will have fun. So many other. I was just from a bromance. It's got to be Paul Raven, who you know quite well.
Yeah.
So no, he and I we talked daily for a few months as we were doing his signature chorus. Just every day. Just, how about this? What do you think of that? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And it was good. And we had hung out and had a lot of good times. We went to, like I said, we went to NAMM together, and we did the Blacktooth Bash. It was like the 5th anniversary of Dimebag's passing. Mm-hmm. So coughing through this redonkulous party. I mean, just Google Blacktooth Bash. And madness ensued. You've been to NAMM. You know what happens.
Yeah.
So, he was, like I said, he's one of the ones. I'll be honest with you. Now that I sit here and think about it, I don't know that I've connected with any artist the same way since
Paul.
Yeah. I'm going to have to talk to my shrink about that. Because I'm thinking, man, no, we hung out. We got super close, and just had a good time.
And then some rando walked into a guitar show. And
you tell that story.
Yeah,
you tell that. You want me to tell that story?
I think I literally had just met you through a couple of guys that we know. You were at the big guitar show here in Dallas.
Yeah.
And you had all your pedals out, and you had the Paul Raven, and I asked you about it, and you said that's the Paul Raven signature. And before you could go on to your next thing, I was like, oh man, it sucks that he just died. And the look on your face was one of, first of all, like, what did you just say? And who the hell are you? Like, and it was this weird thing. And then I felt bad because you told me, because then you had to finish the weekend with that news. So, I didn't realize you guys were that close at the time. I didn't realize what you had gone through. And then like I said, here I was, this rando that walks in and tells you like, oh yeah, the guy that you're kind of putting your company behind right now is dead. And it was, I felt really bad after that. And then first, you and I remained friendly, but we'd run into each other at NAMM or guitar shows, and you're always like, dude, don't come near me. Unless, it was almost like I always was the bearer of bad news when I'd be around you.
Yeah, it was, I can't blame you, because why wouldn't I have known? But to put it into perspective for the folks that have never really done a guitar show, and again, this was kind of just on the verge of smartphones. So we didn't have the internet in our pocket yet. You know, we had flip phones with 640 resolution photos and things like this. It was bad. And yeah, it was, I want to say it was like day one, opening day of this 3-day Dallas International Guitar Convention show thing. And it's massive. Yeah. It's massive. And it was the biggest one. After that, I saw them kind of slowly, slide in size. Anyway, so when you're there, again, pre-smartphone era, you're kind of in this bubble of setup. And, you spend 6-8 hours just setting up your booth. And I had a whole living room, and I had a good friend of mine who did super high-end home audio come and set up this crazy sound system just to make it look cool. But, so I was all tired and exhausted and completely out of touch, because when you're done, you either go back to the bar and drink, or you just go back to your hotel and pass out. So, blabbermouth was a thing, but again, not in your pocket. No. And so, web surfing was the last thing on my mind during the week. So yeah, when you rolled up and dropped it, I had no idea. I knew he was doing some recording because he had just rolled through Dallas on his way to go to Switzerland. And yeah, that was our last our last meeting. Was he called me from, I don't know, LA, I think. I don't know. One of the, either LA or New York. I can't recall which way he was heading, but he had a layover in Dallas, like 3 hours. And I said, cool, let's hang out. We'll have some lunch. We'll shoot some photographs. You'll sign some pedals, and it'll be awesome. So we did. What do you want to eat? I don't know, mate, whatever you want. So I said, all right, well, let's go have some barbecue, because we got good barbecue in Dallas. So I take him to get barbecue, and he orders like a chicken breast with nothing on it, and like some veggies. And to put it in perspective, he's 6'5". Yeah. He's a giant of a man, and he's eating a chicken breast. Okay, well, we're eating, we're talking, we're shooting shit. And he said, oh, mate, what you got there? I said, well, I got the big fat boy platter, because I was pretty fat at the time. There's photographic evidence of that somewhere. But, it's the whole thing. It's fucking Texas. So, So I had, let me get some of that pulled pork. And I said, sure, go ahead. So he grabs his fork and then kind of looks around. What are you doing? I'm making sure my wife's not here. And I said, what's that about? He said, well, I shouldn't be eating this stuff. I just went and had a checkup, blah, blah, blah. My ticker's not doing great. So, or blood pressure, shouldn't have the salt. And how that goes. Men of a certain age, So he proceeds to have a fork full of pulled pork. And we go about our afternoon and have a good time. And I take him back to the airport. And along comes Bernie. Yeah, man. No, he went off to go. Like I said, he did that album over there in Switzerland. I can't pronounce that band's name, so I'm not even going to try. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in the studio, just in his sleep.
No, I clearly remember. I felt really bad when we left. I was with our buddy Eric, and I was like, man, I didn't know. And he's like, dude, you ruined that guy's fucking week. And I was like, I didn't know, man. I didn't know.
And like I said, how would you?
And yeah, and it was crazy, but that's how we met.
That is exactly how we met.
Yeah.
So now everybody has our origin story.
Yeah. But so
it's been good since. It's been good since.
Yeah.
I don't think you've brought me any bad news since, and I appreciate that.
No, I don't think I brought you any bad news, and we've run into each other in different parts of the country, and
It's so weird, and I'll be honest, because like when I was running into you, it was, I mean, my involvement in the music industry was always pretty regional. So, and then when I start traveling out, going from Dallas out to LA and stuff, and these, Dallas to Austin for South by, I expect to see a lot of the Dallas folks in Austin.
Yeah.
But when I go to LA, holy shit, I'm running into people all over again, because it wasn't just you. It's, it's like all these other guys. And oh man, what a small world.
Yeah.
And then, it really is. Yeah. It's a small little world we're in. Anyway, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, so before you started this company, you said you were going to school for audio engineering?
Audio engineering, yeah.
Is that what you wanted to do? Did you ever think you were going to start a pedal company, or did you have a whole different path that you were going to?
We all have different paths, and the one that we end up on.
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to do something in music. As you know, there's a million ways to make a good, solid living in the music industry. So at the time, I just finished up University of New Mexico, like I said, theory and composition. And I said, well, what the hell am I going to do with this? I got a pregnant girlfriend, and this ain't going to pay the bills. So there's a recording studio offering, a whole school experience. So I said, well, let's give that a go. So I went, studied audio engineering with some really cool folks, and had some fantastic experiences. Being in the studio, you get your hands dirty. You repair pedals, you do mods, you do all these things. And, you kind of figure out what you have a knack for. I've always liked tearing shit apart.
Yeah.
And because I figure, well, it's broken, I can't break it anymore. So it just kind of, okay, well, I now know that this capacitor here will do this. And I know if I bump this resistor here, I'll get this result. So just kind of grew in, okay, well, I could do this. And as this was, there was still 2-inch tape in studios at this point in time. Pro Tools hadn't yet completely taken over, but the writing was all on the wall, and we knew it. So it was like, well, shit, we're paying all this money for an education that's literally already out of date before we even enrolled, but we did it anyway because 2-inch tape is awesome. But so it was like, well, I'm going to get the most out of this as I can. So I dabbled in that, and but all that to say, the music industry, as you know, you could always try to go straight and get a straight job, but there's something about it that pulls us back to it.
Yeah.
There's something about that expression and that creativity and that outlet. No matter what you're feeling, there's a place for it in the music business.
Yeah.
So I knew, okay, well, again, there's a million ways to make a living in it. Let's figure it out. And this whole pedal thing just kind of fell into my lap while I was doing a straight job. You know what I mean? I left the audio world and just tried to go straight job for a while to, feed my kids. And just this thing just fell into my lap, and like I said, it was the right time, right place, right weird guy to offer up weird pedals. So it worked, and I can't complain. But is it what I set out to do? No, I initially wanted to be a music teacher. Mm-hmm. But then I realized there's no money. I mean, not just no money in teaching. Like, you can't live being a teacher.
Yeah.
And I can't. I grew up dirt poor. I wasn't going to volunteer to do that again.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. The work that I've put in to put Protone where it is and where it has been, I fucking missed a lot. I missed a lot of stuff with my kids because I was so focused on building the brand, building the company, filling orders.
Yeah.
And just trying to get ahead. And then, I look back and like all these pictures of all my kids and my wife doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not there, and I didn't take that picture. I'm at home working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, God, I missed so much. And I look back and would I trade it? I don't know, man. I'm about to be 50. I'm at that age where you start getting all reflective and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it, man. Anytime someone asks me, you know, anytime someone says to me like, man, I wish I could do what you do and travel around and do this shit and do that shit.
Yeah.
I always tell them like, hey, watch this scene in the Dewey Cox story.
Yes.
where Dewey Cox tells his wife, you know, hey, I'm going to miss some things. I'm going to miss some birthdays. Hell, I'm going to miss some births, you know?
Yes.
And I tell him, I was like, that exactly one scene just kind of puts it all together, you know?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly it. And, you know, I wrote a thing on it. You know, it's like you got to get singularly focused on one thing, and you put your head down and you grind. And after you've put in your 10 years or 10,000 hours, as they say, you know, you got to lift your head up and hope that people are still around. And, I mean, people were still around, but man, I was not the same.
Yeah, I get it, man. Was there ever a time you wanted to quit?
Yes, probably once a quarter.
When the bills are due.
Well, almost. Well, again, just like everything else, you know, I talk to studio owners and stuff like this, and we all tell the same story. And you do too. I know you do, because I know what you do. But yeah, there's a time where, oof, man, in the music industry, it's feast or famine.
Yeah,
it's really how it is. Either you're high on the hog, or you're worrying about, oh shit, it's all over and I got to just close up shop.
Yeah.
And then literally the next morning, something will happen. So, I've been close to closing it 100 times. And I think any business owner would tell you the exact same thing. And if they said, you know, oh, well, I knew, I believed in it. I knew, no, there's always a piece of you that recognizes, man, it may be time. And then, like I said, something happens, you know, like, I want to say about 2 years ago, I called my friend Johnny, who's a bigwig over at Apple and Beats, and said, you got a place for me over there? I might be shutting the shit down. And he said, well, hold on, mate. Let's just talk. So, but it's just like anything, man. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just, fuck it, it's not worth it. Yeah. Or it's not worth the stress, or it's not worth, not seeing my family. Yeah, I don't travel anymore. I used to travel all the time, but I just don't anymore. And that impacts the bottom line, but it's where I choose to, how I value my time and the time what's left with my family, things like that. So,
yeah. Well, brother, I appreciate you doing this again. We've tried this a couple of times. I have one more question for you.
Of course.
This is something that I wasn't doing when I talked to you last time. Name of the podcast is Breakfast Included? If it was included, Dennis, what would you have?
What would I have?
What would you
have to have a breakfast burrito. Now, it all depends on the hotel that we're staying at. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it's like the Wyndham's, okay, so you get like the dehydrated eggs and stuff. But my breakfast jam is just a big fat breakfast burrito.
With everything in it?
Just eggs, potatoes, a little bit of bacon, and some Hatch green chili, some New Mexican green chili, and I'm golden.
Right on. I'm just an egg and potato guy.
The egg and potato is good. I mean, it's funny. I grew up out in the deserts of Southern California, and then I went to school at the University of New Mexico. And New Mexico is all about the green chilies, which you may have heard of, but I don't know. But it's delicious. and I got hooked on it, and you just can't get it anywhere but there.
Yeah.
So every day when I would go to class at UNM, I'd stop at the Sub and pick up one of their pre-made breakfast burritos for like $2.99. It was like the size of a damn baby's arm, and it was delicious. And that's it. That's, it's one of those comfort foods.
Hey.
And it takes me right back to 1992.
Well, man, thanks a lot. Good luck with this Nagel line, man, and we're going to talk about that some more off the phone. But man, thank you again for doing this.
It's always a pleasure, Bernie. Anything at all you need. Call me anytime.
Thanks. Likewise.
My friend, take care.
All right, you too. Bye. Right on. Dennis Mollan of Protone Pedals. You can find them online at protonepedals.com. Go check out these pedals we were talking about, especially if you're a guitar player. You can find them on Instagram at Protone Pedals, and I think pretty much any of the social media is at Protone Pedals. Facebook's, I don't know if they have a TikTok. They might. Check it out. All right, guys, I'm done. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.